Do you like going on trips? What kind of trips do you enjoy the most? How do you feel about having to pack for a trip? Packing. That's the name of the story we are going to study today, and it's about three friends who are getting ready to go for a journey. The story explains the packing session of three friends, Jerome, Harris, and George. The story Packing is an extract taken from the novel Three Men in a Boat, written by Jerome K. Jerome. Here, Jerome is the narrator himself and he explains the experience he has while his friends and him started packing. Now, we can start the chapter and understand what are the humorous events happened at the time of packing. I said I'd pack. The writer Jerome said to his friends George and Harris that he will do the packing, because he was very much confident that he can do it in a perfect way. I rather pride myself on my packing. Packing is one of those many things that I feel I know more about than any other person living. It surprises me myself sometimes how many such things there are. I impressed the fact upon George and Harris and told them that they had better leave the whole matter entirely to me. They fell into the suggestion with a readiness that had something uncanny about it. George spread himself over the easy chair and Harris cocked the legs on the table. So, Jerome said to his friends George and Harris that he will do the packing, because he told he was that much confident. He had that much confidence in his ability to do the packing. But when he said such a thing, his friends were much happy to hear it. Okay, but Jerome thought that his friends will say, "No, we will also help you for doing the packing." But just opposite has happened. They started taking rest. George sat comfortably on the easy chair, and Harris sat on the sofa and kept his feet on the table. But by seeing this, Jerome felt that it was an uncanny behavior from their side. Uncanny means very strange. Okay. Why these two friends are behaving in such a strange way, he thought. Then, this was hardly what I intended. What I had meant, of course, was that I should boss the job and that Harris and George should potter about under my directions. I pushing them aside every now and then with, "Oh, you, here, let me do it." There you are, simple enough. Really teaching them, as you might say. They are taking it in the way they did irritated me. There is nothing that irritates me more than seeing other people sitting about doing nothing when I'm working. So when he said that he will do the packing, he didn't mean that he will do the complete packing by himself, alone. But really, that's the thing he should do now. George and Harris started taking rest by sitting somewhere, and they are just looking at the works done by Jerome alone. Okay. By saying this, Jerome became much irritated. He says that that's the most irritating thing I feel in my life. While he does the work, others are just watching all the things done by him. Okay. So he felt that as an irritating thing. Then I lived with a man once who used to make me mad that way. He would loll on the sofa and watch me doing things by the hour together. He said It did him real good to look on at me messing about. Now I'm not like that. I can't sit still and see another man slaving and working. I want to get up and superintend and walk around with my hands in my pockets and tell them what to do. It's my energetic nature. I can't help it. Here, Jerome recollects or recalls one of his experience while he was living with another man in his room. Okay, and what that man will do always, he would loll on the sofa. Loll means sit lazily on the sofa and watch our Jerome doing things by the hour together for hours and hours. Our Jerome will be working, but that man will be sitting on the sofa very lazily. He said it did him real good to look on at me messing about. And what that man will say, he says that it's very nice for him to see Jerome doing all the works at home. Okay. Now I'm not like that. Now Jerome is saying that he is not like that. He is of a particular type. How he is? I can't sit still and see another man slaving and working. Okay, it's not his habit to sit somewhere and watch all the works done by any other person like a slave. I want to get up and superintend. So what's the thing he wants to do? He wants to get up from somewhere and do all the superintend work. That means supervise the job. To boss the job. He likes to make others do the work. But anyway, he won't sit somewhere to see or to make others do the work. But he will just give out instructions, okay, to them. And walk around with my hands in my pockets. So by putting the hands in my pockets, I'll be saying them to do the works in this way, that way and all. Okay. It's my energetic nature and I can't help it. That's what he says about himself. He says that I won't sit anywhere lazily like that man. I'm so much energetic and I can't change myself in any way. I'm always like this. Okay. Then next paragraph. However, I did not say anything but started packing. So now here Jerome started packing and George and Harris is just watching Jerome doing every jobs. Okay. It seemed a longer job than I had thought it was going to be. But I got the bag finished at last and I sat on it and strapped. So I thought that I can finish all the works within a few hours, but it took much time for me to complete everything. Anyway, I completed my complete task and anyway I stopped or I strapped the bag. I closed the bag and sat above that bag. Okay, I got the bag finished at last and sat on it and strapped it. Strapped it means closed it. At this time, Harris is asking something to Jerome. What's that? Aren't you going to put the boots in? Are you not packing the boots? And I looked around and found I had forgotten them. So Jerome looked around and found that he has forgotten to pack the boots. That's just like Harris. He couldn't have said a word until I had got the bag shut and strapped, of course. And George laughed out of those irritating, senseless laughs of his. They do make me so wild. So that's just like Harris. So what it means? Yes, Harris is like this always. He could have said a word before me closing that bag, but he didn't say that. Okay, after closing the bag, after finishing the complete packing, he asked why you are not keeping the boots in. And by seeing all these, George laughed out loud. Okay, what kind of a laugh? It is so irritating. Jerome felt that laughing as an irritating laugh, senseless laugh. They do that laugh made me so wild, so angry. Then I opened the bag and packed the boots in, and then just as I was going to close it, a horrible idea occurred to me. So I should pack the boots, isn't it? So I opened the bag and packed the boots in, and when I was just about to close that bag, a horrible idea came to his mind, or a horrible thought came to his mind. What was that? Had I packed my toothbrush? So he can't remember has he packed the toothbrush or not. I don't know how it is, but I never do know whether I have packed my toothbrush. So he has a doubt in his mind. Has he packed it or not? Now he says about that toothbrush. My toothbrush is a thing that haunts me when I am traveling and makes my life a misery. I dream that I haven't packed it and wake up in a cold perspiration and get out of bed and hunt for it. And in the morning, I pack it before I have used it and have to unpack again to get it. And it is always the last thing I turn out of the bag, and then I repack and forget it and have to rush upstairs for it at the last moment and carry it to the railway station wrapped up in my pocket handkerchief. So, about the peculiarity of his strangeness of his toothbrush. What's that strange thing about his toothbrush? The toothbrush is the thing he always forgets. Not only at this time, whenever he goes for a journey, he forgets his toothbrush. Okay. My toothbrush is a thing that haunts me. Haunts here means repeatedly giving trouble. Repeatedly troubles me. Toothbrush is a thing which always troubles me when I am traveling and makes my life a misery. My life itself gone misery only because of this toothbrush. I dream that I haven't packed it and wake up in a cold perspiration. So when he's going for a trip and he'll do the packing, and at night he will dream that he hasn't packed the toothbrush. With a perspiration, with complete tension, he wakes up at night and will pack the toothbrush. But in the morning, before going for the journey or before starting his journey, he should brush, isn't it? So in the morning, again he will take that toothbrush from his bag and will forget to repack it or place it in the bag. Okay. And it is always the last thing I turn out of the bag, and then I repack and forget it. So again he'll forget to pack the toothbrush and have to rush upstairs for it at the last moment and carry it to the railway station wrapped up in my pocket handkerchief. So the last moment he should rush upstairs. He should run upstairs to get the toothbrush, so he won't be getting time to pack it in his bag. So he'll be covering that toothbrush in his handkerchief or pocket handkerchief and will be holding it in his hand. Okay, so this toothbrush is a thing which always troubled him, which haunted him. Of course, I had to turn every mortal thing out now, and of course, I could not find it. So, everything which was there in the bag is being taken out. Every mortal thing means every ordinary thing. Everything which was kept in the bag is being taken out again to search the toothbrush, but it's not found. Then, of course, I found George and Harris 18 times over, but I couldn't find my own. So what it means, the toothbrush of George and Harris is being seen almost 18 times, but he couldn't find his toothbrush. I put the things back one by one and held everything up and shook it. So that's how he searches his toothbrush. Okay, he started keeping everything into the bag once again, one by one, and held everything up, and he's trying to shake everything. If the toothbrush is being caught anywhere, it should fall down, isn't it? So he's holding everything up, shaking it, but he couldn't find. Then I found it inside a boat. So at last he found the toothbrush, and from where it was inside the boat. I repacked once more. So he started the packing once again. So second time he packed the bag. Next paragraph. When I had finished, George asked if the soap was in. And I said, I didn't care a hang whether the soap was in or whether it wasn't. And I slammed the bag shut and strapped it and found that I had packed my spectacles in it and had to reopen it. So when he had finished the packing, George asked, has he packed the soap or not? So already Jerome is too tired, so he said he never cares. Even if the soap is there or not, he never cares. By saying that, he closed the bag. I slammed the bag shut and strapped it and closed it and found that I had packed my spectacles in it. So his spectacles were also being packed inside the bag. So he needs that spectacles. So what is to be done? The bag is to be opened again. I got shut up finally at 10:05 p.m. At last, the packing is being completed, and by 10:05 p.m., the bag is being shut. And then there remained the hampers to do. Next is the hampers. They should pack the hampers. Hampers means large baskets for carrying food. So that hampers is to be packed now. Harry said that we should be wanting to start in less than 12 hours time, and thought that he and George had better to do the rest. So they have only a few more hours for their journey. So Harris and George said that they will do the rest of the packing, and I agreed and sat down, and they had to go. Now they started packing. Now George and Harris is packing the hampers. Okay, then they began in a light-hearted spirit, evidently intending to show me how to do it. So in order to show Jerome how to pack, Jerome was very much tired, isn't it, of packing that bag. So just as if to show Jerome how to pack, George and Harris started everything in a light-hearted way. Okay, in a very light manner they started. I made no comment. I only waited. With the exception of George, Harris is the worst packer in this world. If George is not in this world, we can say Harris is the worst packer in the world. What it means? Both George and Harris are not good packers. And I looked at the piles of plates and cups and kettles and bottles and jars and pies and stoves and cakes and tomatoes, etc. And he just glanced, he just looked at Jerome just looked at the number of things which are to be packed in that hamper. So what all things are the piles of plates, huge piles of plates are the, cups are the, kettles, bottles, jars are the, pies, stoves, cakes, tomatoes, everything are to be packed in that bag, and felt that the thing would soon become exciting. So Jerome said that everything is going to be funny now. It did. It became exciting. It became funny. They started with breaking a cup. Now they are starting to pack the hampers, and they just started by breaking a cup. That was the first thing they did. That's the first thing they did as they started the packing. They did that just to show you what they could do and to get you interested. So if you are watching that packing, you'll become more interested while you are seeing something being done by them like this, Jerome says. Then Harris packed the strawberry jam on top of a tomato and squashed it. And they had to pick out the tomato with a teaspoon. So what Harris did, Harris was packing in a hurry, and he packed the strawberry jam, the bottle of jam, on the top of a tomato. And what happened? That strawberry jam bottle is heavy, isn't it? So as a result of that, tomato has been squashed. And how they took out that squashed tomato? By using a spoon. They had to pick out the tomato with a teaspoon. They removed that tomato. And then it was George's turn, and he trod on the butter. George trod on the butter. He stepped on the butter. Butter was being kept down on the floor, and he stepped on it. I didn't say anything. Jerome kept silence. But I came over and sat on the edge of the table and watched them. Now Jerome didn't say anything. He just watched them doing all these things. It irritated them more than anything I could have said. I felt that. So if Jerome was saying anything, they might not have felt this much irritation. Really, Jerome kept silence, and that silence of Jerome irritated them much. I made them nervous and excited. It made them nervous and excited, and they stepped on things and put things behind them, and then couldn't find them when they wanted them, and they packed the pies at the bottom and put heavy things on top and smashed the pies in. So really it is said that Jerome's silence made them much irritated, isn't it? With that irritated mind, they are packing, they are continuing the packing, and what all things happened? They stepped on things. They'll be stepping on some things like butter and put things behind them. Sometimes they'll be keeping the things behind them and will be searching for that, then couldn't find them, so they'll be finding they couldn't find the things which have been kept back and will be searching for that thing for much hours when they wanted them. And they packed the pies at the bottom. We know the pies are very soft, and they'll keep the pies down and put heavy things up on that pies, and what will happen, the pies will be smashed. Okay, so that's how the packing is improving or is being done. They upset salt over everything. And as for the butter, so like they had done with the butter, they spread salt also over everything. I never saw two men do more with 1 and 2 pence worth of butter in my whole life than they did. Now Jerome is saying, now only I understood that these much things can be done with 1 or 2 pence worth of butter. Okay, so that much things have been done by George and Harris with a little bit of butter, little amount of butter. What's that? What all things have been done? We can look. After George had got it off his slipper, they tried to put it in the kettle. So we already told that George stepped on that butter, isn't it? Anyway, it is being taken, that butter is being got off from the slippers of George, and they tried to put it in the kettle. They tried to keep that butter in the kettle, but that that butter was not going in. It wouldn't go in, and what was in wouldn't come out. So they understood that they can't keep that butter in that kettle. So they tried to take it out from the kettle, but it was not coming out. It got sticky. They did scrape it out at last and put it down on a chair. So anyway, anyhow, they scraped that complete butter from that kettle and placed it on a chair, and Harris sat on it. So while doing the packing, they forgot, both of them forgot that butter has been kept on the chair, and unknowingly Harris sat on that butter, and what might have happened, it stuck to him. Okay, and they went looking for it all over the room. So where's the butter now? The back of Harris. It stuck on him, but both of them were searching for that butter all over the room. I'll take my oath, I put it down on the chair, said George, staring at the empty chair. So by staring at that empty chair, George is saying, I'm taking my oath, I promise that I had seen, I put that butter down on this chair. I saw you do it myself not a minute ago, said Harris. So Harris is also saying that, I also remembers that I had seen that you kept that butter on the chair. Then they started around the room again looking for it, and then they met again in the center and stared at one another. So both of them looks around that room. Both of them are looking around the room in search of that butter, and at last they are looking at each other. Most extraordinary thing I ever heard of, said George. So mysterious, said Harris. Okay, so both of them saying that, it's a very mysterious thing. Suddenly the butter has been disappeared from this room. Then George got around at the back of Harris and saw it. So suddenly what happened? George went at the back side of Harris, and suddenly he saw the butter which is being stuck at the back of Harris. Why, here it is all the time, he exclaimed indignantly. Indignantly means in a great anger. Very angrily he is saying, why, here it is all the time. All this time we were searching for this butter, and here it was. Where, cried Harris, spinning round. But Harris can't see it as it is being stuck at his back. He is spinning around and searching for that butter again. Stand still, can't you? Roared George, flying after him. So running around running around Harris, George is saying, stand still. And they got it off and packed it in the teapot. Anyway, they took it from there and packed it in the teapot. The butter is being kept in the teapot now. Next, new character. Montmorency was in it all, of course. Montmorency's ambition in life is to get in the way and be sworn at. If he can swarm in anywhere where he particularly is not wanted and be a perfect nuisance and make people mad and have things thrown at his head, then he feels his day has not been wasted. Montmorency, the dog, next character in our story. Montmorency was in it all, of course. Don't think that Montmorency is not there now. Now we are going to say the character of Montmorency. This part is very important. Montmorency's ambition in life is to get in the way and be sworn at. Be sworn at means here get scolded. That's the ambition of Montmorency. He wants to be scolded by everyone at every time. That is his ambition of his life. If he can swarm means enter with difficulty. If he can swarm in anywhere where he particularly is not wanted, so wherever he is not wanted, he will reach there and be a perfect nuisance. Will always be a nuisance there and make people mad and have things thrown at his head. So when people get angry, what they'll do, they'll throw things at him on his head. Then he feels his day has not been wasted. So at that time he will become much happy. Okay, then he feels that my day is fulfilled, or my day is a good day. So that's the character of Montmorency. Wherever he is not needed, he'll go there, get the scolding, get the beating upon his head, and he feels happy by that. What's his ambition in life? To get in the way and be sworn at, get scolding from people from everywhere. Then to get somebody to stumble over him and curse him steadily for an hour is his highest aim and object. And not only that, some more things are there. To get somebody to stumble means fall. To get somebody to fall over him and curse him steadily for an hour. Sometimes he'll be walking in between the legs of the people, and that man will be falling upon his body, upon Montmorency's body, and that man will be cursing him for hours and hours, and that is his highest aim and object. And when he has succeeded in accomplishing this, his conceit becomes quite unbearable. Conceit means pride. So when he gets that much scoldings, that much cursing from people for troubling, so at that time he feels pride of or proud of himself. So such a dog was Montmorency, and that Montmorency is here now. He came and sat down on things. Already everything is been messed up, so the Montmorency is also such a dog. The character of dog is been already told. Okay, so such a dog is entering this scene. He came and sat down on things just when they were wanted to be packed. So we were about to pack something, and what Montmorency will do, he'll just come and sit upon that particular thing which we are going to take. And he labored under the fixed belief that whenever Harris or George reached out their hand for anything, it was his cold, damp nose that they wanted. So while Harris or George was trying to search for something, he will try to keep his nose in their hands. Okay. He put his leg into the jam and he worried the teaspoons and he pretended that the lemons were rats. So what all things were being done by Montmorency? He put his leg into the jam and he worried the teaspoons. It is big spread, and he pretended that imagining that lemons are rats. Usually dogs will be chasing rats, isn't it? Like that, the dog Montmorency is chasing the lemons, going and catching the lemons, and got into the hamper, got inside the hamper. Okay, this dog Montmorency got into the hamper and killed 3 of them. He killed 3 rats. What are rats here? Those lemons. He is pretending, he is thinking that those lemons are rats. 3 of them before Harris could land him with the frying pan. But while Harris was trying to beat him with the frying pan, he escaped from that. Okay. Then Harris said, I encouraged him. I didn't encourage him. A dog like that doesn't want any encouragement. It is a natural, original sin that is born in him that makes him do things like that. So Harris always said that I encouraged him. Jerome says, Jerome is encouraging her. Harris is always blaming Jerome for the character of Montmorency. But Jerome is saying that Such a dog who has inborn talents, original sin, natural original sin which is inborn in him, doesn't need any encouragement from anyone. The packing was done at 12:50 and Harris sat on the big hamper and said he hoped nothing would be found broken. So the packing was done. The packing was completed at 12:50 and Harris sat on that big hamper. Okay, after completing the packing, he sat above that big basket of food and all. Okay, food items, and he said he hoped that nothing would be broken, would be found broken. George said that if anything was broken, it was broken, which reflection seemed to comfort him. And George said that if anything has been broken, let it be broken. Okay. He also said he was ready for bed. We were all ready for bed. What it means? They want to sleep. Harris was to sleep with us that night, and we went upstairs. So all of them are going to sleep. We tossed for bed. And Harris had to sleep with me, he said. We tossed. Tossed means shook for beds, and Harris had to sleep with me, he said. Harris is also sleeping with them. Do you prefer the inside or outside? The outside, Jerome, do you prefer to sleep at this side or that side, inside or outside the bed? I said, I generally prefer to sleep inside a bed. Harris said, it was strange. It's strange to sleep inside the bed. George said, what time shall I wake you fellows? Harris said, 7. And George is asking them, at what time we should wake up? Harris said, 7 o'clock. I said, no, 6, because I wanted to write some letters. So here Jerome said that, no, I want to wake up at 6 o'clock because he needs to write some letters. Harris and I had a bit of a row over it, but at last split the difference. So split the difference means this. They agreed on 6:30. They had a bit of a row. That means they had a small argument about the time of wake up. Later they decided that yes, we can wake up at 6:30 at 6:30. Wake us at 6:30, George. We said. They were saying that to George, but at that time George made no answer, and we found on going over that he had been asleep for some time. So we placed the bath where he could tumble into it on getting out in the morning and went to bed ourselves. Okay, one more thing is being done by these two friends. George made no answer. So after deciding the correct time to wake up, Harris and Jerome said that they should be woken up at 6:30, but George had slept by that time. So what they did, we placed the bath. They took a bathtub and placed near George, down where he is sleeping. What will happen in the early morning? George will wake up, and what will happen? He will fall into that bathtub. So such a prank is also being done by these two friends before going to sleep, where he could tumble. Tumble means fall into it on getting out in the morning and went to bed ourselves. So that's how that packing is being done by the three friends, Jerome, George, and Harris. This chapter is an extract from Three Men in a Boat, written by Jerome K. Jerome. So that's all about this chapter.